Hello everyone. I'd like to start with the fact that Dad was a positive guy. He always had a positive attitude. I remember I'd stop in his office, say hi to him, and I'd say, "Hey Dad, how you doing?" And he'd say something like, "Fantastic, if I were any better, there'd be two of me." That used to just crack me up. But I think it's important to mention that Dad came from a family of teachers. His father was a teacher, his mother was a teacher, and he had two sisters. They were teachers. Although Dad himself was never a teacher, I think he would have made a good one because he had a certain quality. He liked to help people. I'm going to talk a little bit about that and also about what it's like to really believe in someone. When I was 10 or 11, I was afraid to go to bed at night, and I didn't know why. But every night it was the same thing. I'd crawl into bed, pull the covers over my head, make a little air hole so I could breathe. I'd hunker way down, I'd stay there, I'd be afraid and not know why. Then one day it dawned on me what it was that was bugging me, and I said to myself, I gotta go talk to Dad. He'll know what to do, he'll just know. So I did. The next day I found him, I walked up to him, I said, "Dad." He turned, he looked at me, I gave it up, I pleaded, I said, "Dad, I think I'm afraid of dying." And I was pretty frustrated. He just looked at me like, where did that come from? But I knew he was going to speak to me, and he had this voice that was strong, it was confident, it was positive, it was even melodic. When you add all that together, to me, his voice was beautiful. When I was a little kid, I used to think I tricked him into speaking to me by asking him questions, because I believed his voice was golden. So he looks at me, he starts to speak to me, and he says to me, "Damien, don't be afraid of dying. Don't be afraid. Dying is what makes life precious. Dying is what makes life special. If we didn't die, life wouldn't have meaning." I stood there and I listened. I wasn't sure if I understood it all at the time because of my age. Then I turned and walked away. But when I walked away, I held my head up and I told myself, if Dad can believe that, I can too. And that day, he was my hero, and all he did was help a kid who needed it. And that's what it's like to really believe in someone. A quick footnote, 8 years later, I'm 18, I'm tough. I think I know everything. I see Dad out in the garage. I'm going to challenge him with a question. I want to know if he remembers that time he saved me. So I say, "Dad." He looks up from what he's doing. I ask him, I say, "You afraid of dying?" And he looks at me, gets a wry little smile on his face and says, "No, that's all." But to this day, I remember what Mark Twain said about that. He said that a man who's afraid of dying is afraid of living. Well, Dad wasn't afraid of dying, and Dad wasn't afraid of living. So anyways, life goes on, and I realized he helped a lot of people. You start with Mom. He loved her dearly, and when I think of them together, I think of the word love. But I also think of another word, synergy, because when they were together, 1 + 1 = 3. They helped each other. Then there were the brothers and sisters and I remember a short story Dad told me a long time ago. The brothers and sisters were all gathered together, and in walks Dad's mom. That would be our grandmother. She starts berating him and criticizing him for having so many children. How's he going to take care of 8 kids? What's he going to do with that? What right does he have? Well, what does Dad do? He calls her out. He says, "Listen, you tell me which one of these beautiful children is it that you wish you'd never been born?" I said, "Dad, what'd she say?" He said, "Nothing." She just walked away. People, I'm here to tell you, he had our back. He retires, he moves to Gerhardt. What does he do? He starts over again with a job at Safeway, where he worked 10 years as a courtesy clerk, because all he wanted to do was be with people and help them. Finally finishing his work at his very church, being in charge of the Sunday supper, helping the less fortunate. And he had one quality that stood out, one quality that was unusual. I'm going to say it was his best quality, and that was he never, ever, ever gave up on people. He never, ever gave up on himself. He never gave up. Now I ask you, where do we get a man like that? And I'd answer by saying that he was a gift from heaven, and now he's gone back there where he belongs. One more thing and then I'm done. Dad liked to write poems for members of the family to help celebrate an event, like a birthday, an anniversary, or a graduation. But he didn't do this all the time, just sometimes. I don't know why. But to my knowledge, no one ever wrote him a poem. So I did, and I'd like to share it. Bear with me, it's just a short poem. It's a tribute to Dad and his family. It's called Yesterday, and it goes like this. say, when they had a loved one pass away, that they wish they could trade all their tomorrows for a single yesterday. So I asked myself, if I had not a moment to lose, what day would I choose? Then I dug down deep down to that place with all the memories that I keep, and I found the perfect one, perfect. It was nighttime, we were on vacation, we were on the road, it was Dad at the wheel. Right then I didn't know how to feel. I was in the back with all the others, that would be my sisters, my brothers. All of a sudden Dad broke into that old-fashioned cool water cowboy song. Then a moment later, Mom, with her beautiful voice, sang along. And the comfort that I felt that day, I felt would never go away. Even though my heart knew that this one day wouldn't last forever, my mind told me that one day was better than never. So if you have a chance to trade for that special day, ask yourself, what would you say? Because although your dreams and your wishes may never become real, no one can take away just how you feel. Thanks, Dad.